Hi, welcome back to Quantum Astrology. I'm Julie Simmons, and today's topic is Mercury Retrograde. So, Mercury Retrograde has become such a buzzword over the last years. Everybody knows about it, everybody gets nervous about it, nobody really knows what it is if you're not an astrologer. So I thought I'd kind of straighten things out, because a little bit of knowledge can be a very dangerous thing. So, we all know, or I'm going to remind you, that astrology is based on the appearance of the sky from the perspective of Earth, right? The sun doesn't actually rise, the Earth turns. But it's very rare that you're going to find somebody who says, what a beautiful Earth turning we had this morning. So, the sun rises for us, and astrology is based on our subjective experience of life. It's everything. It's metaphor. It's what I passionately adore. So, now that I've said that, I can let you in on the fact that planets don't actually go backwards. They appear to go backwards. The same way if you're in a car, so imagine that, the planets are like cars and they're going around the sun, and here's we'll say this is Earth, and here's two planets going around the Earth. Well, if this planet, here's Earth and here's the planet. I'm not so good at this. But anyway, if the car is going this way and the other car is going that way, it looks like the car is moving forward. But if this car on the outside overtakes this car, it looks like this car is moving backwards, even though it isn't. That's how retrograde motion works. I hope that's clear. So it appears to us that the planet is moving backwards. And the sun and the moon can never appear to be retrograde, but the planets can always appear to be retrograde. All of the planets can appear to be retrograde. That's the truth. So then we have to think about what planet is retrograde. So Mercury is the planet of the mind, and the mind, of course, is the great trickster. The mind is the trickster because our minds trick us all the time. And in mythology, Mercury is the winged messenger. He has wings on his feet. And the thing about Mercury is it can be up and down in a split second, right? As fast as a thought. You can be happy and you can be sad, or you could be comfortable and you could be scared, and you can just go from 0 to 60 in your mind, and it's just quite amazing. So that's the principle, and when it's retrograde planets, any retrograde planet, you always apply the RE principle. So if it's mind, it's a time when it's retrograde that we need to be reflective, when we need to be recollecting, reflecting, thinking about things. I think that my little homily for Mercury retrograde is that it's a time to let life happen, not to make life happen. Because if you are letting life happen, you're being more considerate. You're considering. To consider means to be with the stars. And if you're considering things, especially when Mercury is retrograde, you're going to avoid disaster. Because a disaster means to be against the stars. So Mercury retrograde encourages our minds to be still, to be quieter, to be reflective, clean out the closet, get your stuff together, have a garage sale, do something that eliminates and gets things out of the way, and then let the magic happen, rather than constantly trying to make the world what we think it should be to conform to our minds. And, we live in a really mind-oriented time, right, when we're being sold endlessly what we should be thinking. So 3 times a year, Mother Nature, call it what you will, the planetary cosmos, says to us, this is a time when you should take less in and listen more to what's already in there. Because what's in there, if you listen to it, will help you to avoid disaster, being at odds with the stars. So Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year. It shifts, it moves. It's not always the same every year, different signs, different times a year. But it's usually retrograde 3 times a year and for about 3 weeks at a time. And of course, there's positive and negative things that happen when Mercury is retrograde. On the negative side, if you refuse to be reflective, and of course, even I refuse to be reflective sometimes. I'm just not in the mood to suddenly have a 3-week reflective period. But if you barge ahead, Mercury retrograde usually means that you bought something that you don't want, that maybe you can't return it, that you missed the detail, you lost your tickets, you forgot, to show up on an important day. You spin your wheels and you do things, more than once. When I used to work, I used to have a show on the radio, and every time Mercury went retrograde, like clockwork, they would have people, they would be in desperate need of people to fill in missing spots where they couldn't find. It was a riot. So I always knew I was going to get a phone call when Mercury was retrograde. Could I do a little extra? Well, yeah, sure. So the bad thing is that you miss the detail. And the worst thing you can do when Mercury is retrograde is sign a contract where you didn't read all the small print. That's definitely not a good idea. And contracts are, I include marriage in those contracts, right? You don't want to get married when Mercury is retrograde. Because it also means that in the marriage, communication won't be good. You'll always be misunderstanding each other. So basically, when Mercury is retrograde, misunderstandings come. But the good stuff with Mercury retrograde is you can learn so much by listening. You can absolutely find out secrets and all sorts of things by just being observant and listening. You can do amazing edits. You can really finally get what you don't need anymore and get rid of it, all that kind of stuff. But if you own a store, Mercury retrograde is often a good time to have a sale because people won't notice what's broken. They'll just buy it up, take it home, no returns. That's a good thing to do. Mercury retrograde sales. And you might get a deal, so why not? So if you're born with Mercury retrograde, it doesn't mean you should never talk. It means that you need to acknowledge and appreciate your reflective qualities, and it means that you should feel right about the fact that you don't want to spill your beans until you're ready. That when you think about something, you want to think through it, you want to understand it before you're willing to talk about it. That seems reasonable. It also means sometimes that it can be difficult to actually download what's on your mind in the moment. And so people with Mercury retrograde really do well if they keep journals or write things down before they speak them. It will help quite a bit. If you're in a relationship with somebody who has Mercury retrograde, it's probably a good idea not to keep at them to tell you what they're thinking when they don't feel like telling you what they're thinking, but to support their reflectiveness and to encourage them to send you love notes would be a very good idea, because that way they'll be able to really communicate what's in the mind. Many writers have Mercury retrograde. It's not a bad place to have Mercury, or a good place to have Mercury, but you need to know, as with all astrology, you need to know how to deal with it. So I have a friend who is a holographic repatterner named Carolyn Winter. And one time, Carolyn and I were sitting around and decided that we would create an online program for Mercury retrograde to help people align themselves with Mercury retrograde. And we've been doing this for a number of years. So if you would like help aligning yourself with Mercury retrograde, you can go to our website. You can go to alignedformercuryretrograde.com, or you can go to mercuryretrograde.ca, and we have a blog and we have a sign-up place. And even if you don't want to sign up for the program, which happens 3 times a year when Mercury is retrograde, you can learn a lot about Mercury retrograde, and you can get the dates for Mercury retrograde there. So I hope that this is useful to you, and that you do all the right things next time Mercury is retrograde. Take care. Bye.